Hello. Today's episode number 100 of the Professor Slots podcast discusses my state-by-state online resource for slots enthusiasts. Plus, in this episode, I'll be covering the current state of slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedel, and this is the podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. In case you missed it, on my last episode, I had a rapid-fire Q&A show from my weekly live stream Q&A session on YouTube. Further, I reviewed Pennsylvania slot machine casino gambling in 2020. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Here's the audio recording of my latest live Q&A session. Hello, everybody. Let me know if the volume is good. I've got some new equipment, and hopefully it all works. Great. And hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? It's great to hang out with you again for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. Today, I'll be talking to slots enthusiasts like you about the advantages your state gaming jurisdiction provides to help you win at slots. Not using my free online resource for slots enthusiasts would be like not using your free slot play at the casino. That's coming up. Hi. Thank you for the note about the volume. Hi, my name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on with slots and more, I can help. Thanks again for joining us today. Whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream at noon Eastern Time each Saturday, I'm glad you're all here. If you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello to everyone in the live chat. Let us know where you're at and where you play slots. I'll check in with the live chat in a little bit. And as always, be sure to ask your slots-related questions. Today's topic is all about making the most of your gaming jurisdiction. Well, it's a fancy name, but in the United States, it's primarily your state, your home state, or maybe another state where you like to play slots. But there's also 5 U.S. territories: American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, as well as our single federal district, the District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C. 56 U.S. gaming jurisdictions, whether they are a state, territory, or a federal district, is too many to mention here. As I have mentioned on past live streams, I write articles on these gaming jurisdictions. I've done this weekly for last month will be 3 years. For over 3 years as an online resource for slots enthusiasts like yourself. It takes about 13 months to write each, all of them in a series. I've got to go, I'm about, I'm in my 3rd time through, and it'll be another 2 months before I start the 4th time through. I call them series. So each time I restart the series, I add something new based on what I've learned, having gone through everything. That first series, I just guessed, on what's out there. I knew a few things about my gaming jurisdiction and maybe my home state or something. But once I went through all of them, I began to get a better idea of what was out there. So the 2nd time through, I added a bunch of stuff. And now the 3rd time through, I added a bunch of stuff. So I've been learning what's out there. And based on what I've learned, I will include something more that is of most interest to you. For this last series, I added a subsection for payout returns. I mean, how could we not have that, right? That's theoretical payout limits and or return statistics. And then I also added a map with with locations of casinos with slot machines across the state. I've got a few ideas for what else I'll be adding to each in 2 months when I start the 4th restart, but I won't spoil the surprise now. These 56 articles have also been turned into YouTube videos and podcast episodes. That's also something I've been doing for several years. As today's podcast listeners know, those that are listening now to this, not live, but later, tomorrow evening perhaps, I'll add on the next state at the end of each episode. For example, this live stream will be the first segment of the next podcast episode. It will be released tomorrow evening, and the second segment of that show, of that podcast episode, will this time be Puerto Rico slot machine casino gambling in 2020. And as it happens, this next podcast, I don't want to make a big deal out of it because this is not about me. This is about you. But it's my 100th episode. Woohoo! And as we like to say at work sometimes, that was 5 minutes ago. I guess in this case, 5 seconds ago. However, I've been a little bit inconsistent with each state's YouTube video. I've been doing them for a long time, but I guess I wasn't doing them very well because they didn't seem to be getting a lot of attention. I think in main part there was I wasn't, this is all before I started having my live Q&A on Saturdays, and I really wasn't developing my YouTube channel. So I only had those videos, but it got so bad that 6 months ago, I decided to stop doing them, to stop doing state-by-state videos. And that was probably a mistake. An article is not the same as a video, which is where my issue was. I've recently restarted them again. That would have been about, I think it's been 3 weeks. Just the idea was 3 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks ago, ordered equipment that I think will help, like a better microphone, some better lighting, and switched up the studio. And well, you'll see, or maybe you already have because I uploaded the first of those yesterday. But so you might have seen this. For those of you watching on YouTube, you probably saw that I released 8 new YouTube videos yesterday. These were all state-by-state videos where I picked up from where I left off, Mississippi, right? So the first one I put out was Missouri. I hope that you will find these videos as exciting as I do. I think the content's great. It was just my way of presenting it. So I'm 20. That's nearly 1/3 of a year. 4 months. I'm 20 state-by-state videos behind, but I've started to catch up, starting with Missouri. I've already produced 8, which is what I uploaded for your viewing pleasure yesterday. Apparently, I can create, edit, and upload about 4 per day, which is less than I thought, but is workable. So the remaining 12 state videos to get caught up should be available online by sometime on Tuesday in a few days. That'll take me through the 20th video, which is the state of Tennessee. Before we start with briefly going through as many of these 20 states as possible during today's live stream to see what my online resource that I've built for the last 3 years provides these days, give you an example of as many states as we can get through in today's live stream, so you can see what what's available to you. But let's talk a bit. About what's going to happen after Tuesday, after I've gotten caught up. This last 4 weeks have been, not to talk about me, but been extraordinary. And as far as you're concerned, I am putting a lot more focus and a lot more attention into Professor Slots. I was full-time, and now I'm more so. So I've made some investments, and I'm doing more things. I'll be, in a few days it comes down to, I'll be doing 20 videos, these state-by-state videos, and I don't expect to stop. Going forward, you can expect a new state-by-state video will be coming out weekly on Tuesdays. along with the updated article for that state, territory, or federal district. That's right, my weekly contribution to my online resource for slots enthusiasts will be available to you on Tuesdays. Before it was just the article, now it's going to be the article and the video. Once I'm caught up, I'll continue to make other videos for slots enthusiasts on my winning strategies, how to improve your bankroll management skills, winning at slots during your next trip to Las Vegas, and hundreds of other videos. These are all articles that I want to turn into videos, and articles that I want to write, and articles that I have written. So that's a lot coming your way. Enjoy. So let's check in with the live chat briefly to say hello. Lots going on here. Lois and Dave are in Ontario, where it is hot. No casinos are open yet. Our international cousins too. Well, they're family, but not cousins, to the north. And Chuck says casinos are open here, but slots seem tight. I believe he's in Missouri, barely treading water. But collecting points, I know he has a little bit of an interest in collecting tier status, improving in tier status. Paula is here from Michigan. I've made her, I need to have a moderator in chat. We've been getting some non-slots enthusiasts. They're in different film industries showing up. And so I've asked Paula to keep an eye on that and anything else, not you guys, but things that make a bad experience. And so I'm able to focus on serving you. So let's see. Dave and Lois kindly pointed out I'd set this for 2:00 p.m. It must have been some setting I didn't notice. And we're going to come back to that. We're not going to come back. We're going to be at noon, and that was a mistake. So news about that sounds good. Shannon from Camillus, New York. Hopefully I pronounced that correct. All right. And Kat Booker, I don't believe I've seen you before. Not that I've seen everybody who comes through. Kat Booker is from Portland. And Michael Grassley, he's back from Denver. Not yet from Blackhawk due to big doubts. Yeah, it's an interesting time in the country. Check the news, man. Right. So that was excellent. And what I want to do now is go through a few states, give you an example of what you might find in your state. And there's a 1 in 3 chance we'll talk about your state. But even if it's not your state, there's something to be learned, and seeing what you have available, see what you could have available, see how it could be done differently. It could be more than 1 chance in 3. If you gamble in 2 states, it could be better odds. So let's start with Missouri. I know it's been over 25 years, but Missouri slots was once all about riverboat casinos. A lot has changed since they got started with slots. And you might think it's not important that Missouri started with riverboat casinos. But how many times have I mentioned lately that all casinos have switched over to using central servers to control their slot machine odds of winning, except for riverboat casinos, right? They can't, because the floor isn't a floor they can dig up. It's a hull beneath which is muddy water. It's not physically possible to switch to a central server with all its cables that have to be routed somehow. And if you're not in Missouri and perhaps don't care, maybe you should check to see if your state was the first, second, third, or fourth of these states that approved riverboat casinos. Yes? So and Missouri is one of those states that have great payout returns. They have 80% theoretical payout limit and monthly return statistics by casino. And yes, they're one of the 5 states that offer return statistics also by slot machine denomination. I see something's going on, and oh, Catherine, Cat Booker is your other name. My other name is Professor Slots. Some people, I was reading a book about doing all of this, and they said, "What's your superhero name?" So your superhero name, Catherine, is Cat Booker. Hi, Maggie. So that's a bit about Missouri, fascinating state. Some of you are from there. Some of you gamble there. I've gambled there. It's not too far away. So let's move to Montana. We're going to do some of these alphabetically. Montana has 8 tribal casinos, but over 1,300 bars and taverns. With over 16,000 video gaming machines. They call them VGMs, video gaming machines. These VGMs each offer video slots, but they also offer video Keno, video bingo, and video poker. Their maximum bet is $2 and maximum jackpot is $800. Video slot machines at bars and taverns have a theoretical payout limit of 92%. That's for the slot machines. The poker and the Keno is a little bit different. The tribal casinos don't have a theoretical payout limit, and Montana doesn't offer return statistics on any of those things. Nebraska. Nebraska is one of those I learned a lot from Nebraska. Nebraska is one of those very unusual states when it comes to gambling. According to state law, it doesn't exist. But that's only because they've legally defined what gambling is, and it's very different from most accepted definitions. For instance, Keno, poker, and craps aren't gambling according to Nebraska state law, or rather the Nebraska state legislature. And Keno is hugely popular in Nebraska, including in Scottsbluff County. Plus, casinos are illegal. It's the law. Casinos are illegal, but Nebraska has 21 gambling centers, as they are called. What's tough about gambling in Nebraska is the lack of legal protections for players, which includes a telephone hotline to report wrongdoings by Keno players. But having a state gaming commission to fix these sorts of issues has so far been rejected by voters. It's definitely a state to keep an eye on. I guess they didn't consider following Nevada's example. Speaking of Nevada, this state is a gambling example to the world, truly. They have had a gaming industry for over 80 years. At last count, Nevada has 163 casinos, with Las Vegas having 60 of these casinos. There's a lot to be said about Nevada gaming, and I have several articles on it, and eventually videos. But one of the most fascinating things about Nevada is how they've set up casino towns on the Nevada side of the state border to their neighboring states along major highways. And did you know they have 2 tribal casinos? Their theoretical payout limit is fairly low at 75%, but their return statistics are just about endless. For those of us who just like to have the numbers, the statistics, it's pretty amazing. Can't do much more than that. But you can also get a little bit from it. Rather than spend the next hour talking about Nevada and all that it has to offer, let's move on. But I will mention one thing. In the last year, Nevada has shut down Megabucks. Megabucks is no longer available. Progressive slot machine, life-changing jackpots. Megabucks have been switched off, and that was all before the pandemic. Let's see. Hey, Steve's here. Yep. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's try New Hampshire. And Steve, I'll get to North Carolina in just a minute. So New Hampshire. New Hampshire is another one of those states that has banned casinos, but they do have 27 locations with Keno, bingo, and table games licensed through charitable gaming rules. Unfortunately for us, as slots enthusiasts, they've also banned, quote, any game involving the use of a slot machine or any other device in the nature of a slot machine, end quote. Yet 400 charitable organizations received funds from 27 sites, something which started in the state about 40 years ago. Some of these sites include former pari-mutuel racetracks, defunct pari-mutuel racetracks that currently are not open other than as nonprofit charitable sites. Charitable sites, not entirely nonprofit. There's a nonprofit attached. These little laws you have to find your way through. So let's talk about New Jersey. New Jersey is famous for its Atlantic City casinos. I know that everyone is interested in slots. I know that not everyone is interested in slots history, and I have YouTube statistics on my slots history videos to prove it. But casinos opened in Atlantic City, the only other place besides Nevada in the United States, in 1978. Things went great for them for almost 30 years before all the commercial and tribal casinos started opening up along the east coast of the U.S. Atlantic City hit a real low 14 years ago in 2006, where it was somewhat bleak for about 12 years. But Atlantic City's 9 casinos have been going through a real upturn in the last 2 years. I should also mention they have a great Casino Control Commission, which verifies and approves online internet sites for playing slots for real money gambling. If that's an interest of yours, something I'm not particularly interested in, then using an approved site is, well, as safe as it gets with online slots for real money gambling. So New Mexico, Davian is here as well from Illinois. Excellent. So New Mexico. New Mexico has tribal casinos, racetrack casinos, and nonprofit sites. They all operate under the same state gaming regulations, more or less. But what I found most interesting is that New Mexico residents have more slot machines available to them per individual than any other state. You count up the number of people in New Mexico, you count up the number of slot machines in New Mexico, and there's more slot machines per resident than any other state. A slots enthusiast heaven, indeed. Although I wouldn't mind if the theoretical payout limit was a little better than 80%. Just saying. New York. Wow. New York has everything. It's incredible that way. 11 tribal casinos, 8 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, 4 casino resorts, onboard casinos on cruise ships to international destinations, and Canadian casinos just across the border from Buffalo, as well as across the border from upstate New York and Montreal. I can't even get into the theoretical payout limits and return statistics here, as each is a little bit different. But I've carefully called them out, each of them out in my article and in the upcoming video. New York, quite a bit going on there. Took me a little while to just sort of eat that elephant. Did I use that expression before? It's just a lot going on. You have to sort of focus on each one. Didn't even mention that some of the tribal casinos are just class 2, bingo style, competition style gaming machines, and that some are class 3, where they are Las Vegas style slots. So there's even more going on there. Fascinating state. So North Carolina has a huge casino, a small cozy casino, and a bingo hall. Each of these is tribal owned, but the casinos are operated by Harrah's, which is a division of Caesars Entertainment, which you may or may not know is, the owners of Caesar's Palace. Bally's, Harrah's, of course, Horseshoe, just a long list of casinos. The tribal state gaming compacts have theoretical payout limits, which is very unusual to have a tribal state gaming compact with a theoretical payout limit. They have 2. There's a lower limit and an upper limit, which is interesting. It's there's more to it than just having an upper limit and a lower limit. Is it per bet? Is it per play? Is it per lifetime of the machine? It's not like you can't win on them. But in any case, their lower limit is 83% and their upper limit is 98%. And our North Carolina slots enthusiast private Facebook community, which you can reach by using my shortcut, professorslots.com/FBNC, is very active considering they only have 2 tribal casinos in their state. But it's a fun group of slots enthusiasts. All of these states have an associated private Facebook group. I've agonized a little bit over whether or not the slots communities should be private. That seems to be the preference. I think it keeps a lot of people out because they, like last night I had somebody try to join and they apparently had to wait for me to wake up to approve them. And they just couldn't wait. So they switched off their request. And that's okay. People have to wait. A few minutes to however long I'm from the middle of the night. I get them 24 hours a day from all the different states, and I approve most of them. There are a few obvious fakers. I'm not making fine judgments about who gets in and who doesn't get in. I just want to make sure that they are human, but not a robot, that sort of thing. Right. So North Dakota, let's move on to North Dakota. North Dakota has 6 tribal casinos, which is decent, but they've got 800 charitable gaming sites. 800. They have better theoretical payout limits for video poker and video blackjack. It's 83% than they do for slot machines, which is only 80%. Now, isn't that useful? I've known there's a recreational podcast called You Can Bet on That with Mark and Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike is a dentist, and he was on vacation with his family. They're out in California, San Diego, and a suburb. And they were out in Montana, and he had a question, came back on a show and was saying, I was out in Montana. I wonder what those games were all about. So I filled him in. This was maybe a year ago. I need to get back to some of these recreational podcasts and just sort of call in when they have questions and answer some of the questions. But he wondered what was going on with them. So I tried to explain, did explain. So, and that's an example for you. If you were to come, on vacation, see something you hadn't seen, if you got internet access, just check my website. All the states are there. professorslots.com/2-letter postal designation will take you directly to that state. And, for North Dakota, ND. Yeah. And when you go there, it'll give you an idea. There's a map now of where the casinos are in the state, and you can compare that to where you're located, and you can, I'm trying to make this stuff useful, and it's more useful than I thought it would be. Not to get sidetracked here, but one of the things I want to point out is all of you, well, unless it's Nevada, all of you are unlikely to be interested in any particular state. But Nevada, if you ever want to go there, or go there regularly, you'd want to know that. But it turns out that as the slots enthusiasts private Facebook groups grow, there's a lot of people that go to each one of these states, and I'm starting to see the numbers rise. And I feel this truly is an online resource. So I'm going to continue. Now, I say that before I start talking about one of the U.S. territories. I think there's more than one. One of the U.S. territories, this one is in the South Pacific. The Northern Mariana Islands is a U.S. territory in the South Pacific, west of the Philippines and north of Australia. It's not far from the Mariana Trench, which will come up later. And what's going on there is frankly horrifying. I'm appalled. a year ago, I was appalled, and I'm not quite as appalled now. When I last reviewed it, and I just reviewed it for this year, but on my last series, the situation there was reported by one of the major cable news stations, MSNBC, a year ago as to what was going on, and and I'll get into just a bit of that. Basically, my research and the news report that came out not long after last year showed that this U.S. territory had apparently been bought by China. Bribery, extortion, FBI raids, deaths. It's got it all. In the last year, it does appear that law and order is prevailing. But I was quite worried a year ago. If you're interested in seeing some of this, see my article at professorslots.com/MP for details. MP is the postal designation for the Northern Mariana Islands. Anyone else remember struggling to learn the two-letter postal designations as a kid, all of them, and how MP for the Northern Mariana Islands was always the hardest? Or is that just me? The other thing about Northern Mariana Islands, the voters had rejected having, it's all there in the article, but in the video, but voters had rejected approving having casinos there until a few years ago, 2014. And then they kind of basically weren't asked. The government, state government, the territorial government decided to just bring them in and avoid having a referendum, so nobody needed to vote. And advocates were just sort of pushed to the side. And now there's all kinds of problems having to do with favorable terms for Chinese companies to come in. They have something called what is it? Imperial Pacific Hotel and Resort, something like that. Imperial Pacific. It is. They've negotiated a contract for a 25-year contract to not have to pay taxes to the territory, but they did offer a $25 million annual fee. And apparently, according to the FBI raids, and there's been half dozen of them or something in a short period of time, apparently there was also monies given to the governor or the governor's family and other individuals. So it's all alleged. The governor, Ralph Torres, has denied any wrongdoing. And we'll see how that shakes out. Nobody was doing anything like this a year ago, so it's good to see that the FBI and the U.S. District Court on the Northern Mariana Islands is looking into this because, there's a reason why the U.S. has a U.S. territory in the South Pacific. It may not be too far ago. Yes, Steve says please keep the private Facebook groups on private, and I will. I've made a promise, and I'm not going to switch it over. I might start. I've considered starting another one that's sort of a national one that isn't public, but honestly, you could fill up a Facebook community with people who aren't relevant to the topic, and that's not a useful group. It's not a fun group. It's not a target group. So it takes a little more time than maybe I was expecting to grow some of these groups. But on the other hand, some groups are just quiet. Some groups have 100 people and they're all listeners. We need an occasional speaker, though. It reminds me of teaching physics, where you need a group that's kind of chatty, or at least one person, even if they say things that are wrong, because everybody else starts talking because they're objecting, and instead of just dead silence. And it just seems like once they get going, then they start learning a lot more. Anyway, we do have some quiet groups and we have some very active groups. I'm looking at you, Oklahoma. But Ohio. So now travel with me from the South Pacific to my home state of Ohio. Ohio has been pretty busy building casinos for the last 10 years. 10 years. Basically, Ohio has set things up fairly simply. They have two types of casinos, but they have identical, very close to identical, I'll say identical gaming regulations, but from two different sources. The State Gaming Commission regulates 4 casino resorts, and the Ohio Lottery Commission regulates 7 racetracks with slot machines, racinos. All these casinos arrived around 2012, although they have switched ownership. And it's not to entirely focus on theoretical payout limits, but in Ohio, it's 85%, and there is no upper limit, similar to Pennsylvania, which we'll have coming up, which is also 85%, but they have an upper limit of 100%. So that's kind of it for Ohio. I'm going to jump to Oklahoma and start talking about that, but I do want to see if there's anything I need to address in the live chat. Make sure that's still pretty acceptable. Shannon says, yep, in New York. I think you said New York. And Maggie is New Jersey. And I think they're still closed. I think I heard something about New Jersey opening soon or would. Yeah. Right. I talk about this as an online resource, and I provided professorslots.com/tracker for the American Gaming Association's way of keeping an eye on how many casinos have reopened. I didn't tell you the statistics for today because it's only like 3 more casinos. I think it was 150 that were closed out of the 989 casinos. 150 were closed a week ago, and there's 147 that are closed. So it's only changing small amounts. I do have to wonder, if some of these might be, New York, but 147 seems like a lot. I wonder how many of them won't reopen. So that's the next thing I want to keep an eye on with that tracker is maybe in 6 months we can take a look at it and see if it's still up and see, what the damage is as far as what casinos have closed. I will be doing the same thing as I go through my 4th series on my online resource week by week by week, but it might be a little faster. It'll take 13 months to get through all those. And even then it's after the pandemic's over. Right. So Oklahoma, it's really hard to count how many casinos it has, because some of them are gasinos, which is that's a fun term. That's a fun term. A shack out back, they upgraded to something that's attached to the convenience store now. That sounds fascinating to me, seriously. And but there's no theoretical payout limits, and there's no return statistics available, which for the state with the most casinos, or rather, is the most casinos? Nevada's the most. California's second. Oklahoma's up there, over 100. But no theoretical limit and no return statistics. That's a tough one. And we were talking on the Oklahoma Slots Enthusiast Facebook page about income taxes, and there's a limit on gambling deductions. I'm not a professional income tax preparer, and even if I were, I don't live in Oklahoma, so I don't know the state laws. You need somebody local to do income taxes because state law. But apparently, there's a limit if you're a non-resident Oklahoma, say you live in Louisiana or Texas, and you drive into Oklahoma, on how much you can deduct on your gambling losses. And 4%. I don't know what the state income tax is, but I'm familiar with states that have 4% state income tax, and you win $1,000, you spend $1,000, you win $1,000, you spend $1,000, and you've got $2,000, and then you win $2,000, right? And you a hand pay, so you spent $2,000, you won $2,000, you know what I mean. And your deductions might be $2,000, but you don't have to pay taxes on it because you can deduct up to your winnings. That's at the federal level, and many states do the same thing, but not Oklahoma. And so you could end up, hitting the limit, and everything over that limit on your gambling deductions doesn't apply in your state, and it becomes a 4% tax. Your payout return just dropped 4%. And as I talk about on consultations and other times here on the live stream, 4% change in your theoretical payout limit. Oh my goodness, that's terrible. So Oklahoma has roughly half Class 2 and half 3, half Class 2 and half Class 3 machines, more or less. In 2015, it's been a little while. They said 57% were Class 3 games. I don't know of any other state that has that kind of ratio, but it is hard to get good information. Let's see. Maggie says, "Hi, John. I play slots in Southern California and have enjoying consistent carousel method pre-COVID wins. Now past COVID, I'm not having as much luck. What do you think about the way what do you think about the every other machine method?" I'm glad to have a question. I want to kind of break up going state by state. And I think if it works, it's great. These are tribal casinos, right? So in California, it's all tribal casinos, and it's you can expect things to happen with that's possible to do with tribal casinos. So they're not likely to be sold, right? Very, very, very unlikely to be sold by the tribe. So you don't have to worry about their building up their crowds before, to make themselves more favorable to be purchased. There's just a list of techniques to try that apply. And I think that every other machine, you're talking about there being off. I think it's fine to try the methods pre-COVID or after COVID. It isn't really about the techniques having changed. I'm not looking for I'm not trying to find a way to win during a pandemic, because in 6 months it won't matter. Oh, hopefully. Another 100 years, the next pandemic, it might matter again. The options that are available to casinos as far as setting up the odds of winning in some consistent pattern, of which I've mapped out 7, 8 of them, they would likely change. Normally, when it's not a pandemic, it's unusual for them to try something else. But with this pandemic and just the way their finances were hit, then they may try one of the others. It's not like there's too many more. I mean, I might have missed a couple, and I might learn about some additional ones, particularly fine tuning, but the major ones I've mapped out, and they may change because they're driven to by the change in finances. But I think mostly what they're trying to do, the bad ones and ones that are not thinking about it, are just turn down the odds of winning. We're taking your money. That's it. But then you have other places that are like, well, if we do that, we're going to, the smarter ones, if we do that, we're going to lose people and they might not come back. And we all remember when the last time we did that, and it was so terrible, we had to woo them back and it took such a long time. And, these experiences that they have, particularly as tribal casinos. Oklahoma knows what I'm talking about from January and the arguments, the feud with the governor. But these changes in, the good ones are trying to have jackpots, but just reduce the amount, because a lot of people there a lot of slots enthusiasts are there for the entertainment, and the entertainment is to win. I mean, just to have the feeling of winning, to have it ping, ting, ting, and great. And if you look at the amount and go, well, that's just about what I spent to win that, and, instead of double. You're not making a profit anymore, but you're still winning. That's a whole lot better experience for both the player and the casino, because the casino's making money, and particularly if they don't win as much as they're betting. And that's different from what was done before, and everybody gets what they want. So you gamble, and you lost a little bit of money. Well, you paid for your entertainment. That works. That's a win-win. It's the people that not the casinos that are not thinking about it, are just saying, well, we need the money, so we'll take the money. I'm like, well, your next quarter is going to be tough because those people aren't going to come back. Anyway, I've talked about this sort of thing. Follow your try to sum this up. And I know everybody has interest in winning slot strategies. So step number one, it's possible. The casino has control. There's a bunch of things that they could try to do. I've tried to map them out and have mapped them out. And you have to sort of decide which one are they doing now. Before, people were like, oh, there's no such thing. No such thing. It's all luck based. The slot machine reel was never turning freely, on an axle going tick, 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 tick. It was always being turned by a motor that would stop at a particular position decided upon when the bet was made. And now casinos have even better control. And so understand what casinos might be doing and then start working through them. If you think it's every other machine, then it's every other machine, because I trust your instincts, go with that. If you're winning money, figure out what it is that you're doing. That's not luck. That is winning, that is a pattern. Okay. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So thank you, moderator, for putting in the link for last week's video. I make those kind of hard to find. Right. So I think I got all the questions in there. What else can I say about Oklahoma? The map was tough. Trying to get 131 different casinos on a map and still be able to read it. But I persevered. I used my PhD to try to do a different kind of style. Right. So Oregon. And Oregon is 9 tribal casinos, but there's, again, many bars, taverns, and pari-mutuel wagering sites with video lottery terminal style slot machines. The non-tribal VLTs have a theoretical payout limit, but the tribal casinos do not, and neither of them have a return statistics available. For the non-tribal VLTs at bars and taverns, it is, this is fascinating. I know I keep on saying that, but it really is. If you go into the menu at one of these VLT gaming machines, not at the tribes in Oregon, if you go into the machine, the gaming machine menu, there will be the theoretical payout percentage for that game. If you don't want to drive to Oregon and you want to see what a particular game theme, since they don't change them from one, this all implies that if you have a row of 5 times play machines, they all have the same payout percentage because it's only one entry for that. You can look it up in the machine, but you can also look it up online. So that's this is where having the machine on the end of the row near the bar doesn't matter, because that game is going to be this percentage. So you just look up and find the game with the best percentage, like, you have to find it and play that one. So every state's got a little bit of different stuff going on. Tribal casinos could very well do that winning slot strategy I was just talking about, where the position of the slot machine matters, but not so much at the VLTs. And if you're trying to do something which the law clearly states is not possible, it's hurting you. So you can go online at the Oregon Lottery and you can get the theoretical payout percentages for, just find the game you're interested in, and you can find that game anywhere in one of the small sites where they have these at non-tribal locations, and you can look it up on the game itself as well. So that's just fascinating with Oregon, I thought. got a longer question again. See, Shannon, does changing bet amounts while playing hurt or help your odds? I guess my question is, does machine reset itself with each change of bet? It shouldn't. What I've found to be a change in bet is if you don't have money in the machine, okay, but you can change the bet amount without taking all your money out in a voucher and then putting it back in. You can do that, but if you're waiting to run out of bankroll in the machine and then changing the odds, that's the wrong way to do it. Well, I don't want to say wrong. If you like your odds, let's say you're betting and you're improving, you like your bet, your odds of winning, you're winning a little bit, then up the denomination, it won't change the odds. These machines are all, I mean, as long as you're not on a cruise ship somewhere and you're not, in some of these places where the gaming regulations, or if you're playing HHR machines in Kentucky, or you're playing Class 2 games at tribal casinos, you got to watch out for the ones where the gaming regulations are weak, shall we say, where it's not illegal. If they were to do that, you want solid gaming regulations like Class 3 games, non-casinos, non-cruise ships, and you're protected. That's what they're there for. They run them through these labs to make sure that the odds are performing properly, and if they don't pass, they don't get accepted, and that's all bad news. So if you are trying to do Class 3 slots in a state with good gaming regulations, and that's why online resources is there for you, then it doesn't matter. But they do have this loophole of if you take all your money out and you take your player's card out and you wait a minute or two or some amount of time, that's a reset. Use that if your odds are terrible. It's a winning strategy to, I'm losing. What can I do? Is there anything I can do to improve this? Take your money out, take your card out, wait a minute. They got a central server. That's their opportunity. Not saying that they will change the odds, but they might. Put your stuff back in and continue on, and you may have new odds that you can live with. The same is true. The reverse is true. If you are winning, then you got to be very careful not taking out both your card and your money at the same time. And this is Class 3 games, and not on cruise ships. Hope that helps. If you ever, I'm not doing this very well. One of the changes that's going to be coming up is I'm going to be more into sales. I'm forced to it. And if you want to set up a consult at professorslots.com/consult, then we can go over that very specifically. I'll ask you in advance what your state of interest is, what your goals are, and I'll put some time into it. And so when we talk for 50 minutes or so, I'll focus on what questions you want to ask, and I'll answer them. And tell me what casino we're talking about here, Shannon, what state, what your goals are. I'll ask some questions that should help answer all of those things if you sign up, and we'll answer this. It's hard to give you a clear answer in a couple minutes during a live stream, and it's pretty cheap. So never going to be cheaper in the future. So Pennsylvania, my goodness, talk about another state that's just, doing so much. They have 6 pari-mutuel racetracks with slot machines, 4 standalone casinos, and 2 casino resorts. They have a maximum and minimum theoretical payouts, and return statistics are available online. That's all great and wonderful. But one of the things they did was they authorized in 2017 that they would have truck stops, airports, and online slots. Now, none of those have opened yet, but it's supposed to be this year. The airports you have to get an agreement with the authority. These are the existing casinos, can open a satellite location. within 25 miles of their existing casino, up to 750 slots and 50 table games at those satellite locations. And there's other limitations. Truck stops with slot machines, they can have up to 5 slot machines, but they has to be approved by their county. These other things, and also they authorize themselves to have 2 more casinos, 1 more racetrack with slot machines and 1 more casino resort, but they haven't opened. In fact, they haven't even sold the license, the gambling license, to an individual who wants to open a casino. So Pennsylvania is not done, and I'm kind of wondering what the hangup is there. But they've been doing great. Let's see, largest casino is Parks Casino. It has over 3,000 slot machines. The second largest also has over 3,000 slot machines. These are not small, not small casinos, and percentages by month for payout return statistics by month are available for each casino. Interesting state. I kind of worry about its upper theoretical limit. Now, I don't want to give away too much on Puerto Rico, so I might just skip Puerto Rico, because those of you who are listening on the podcast will get the full deal starting in about 5 or 6 minutes. So I'll hold off on talking about Puerto Rico here so you don't get double dosed. Let's see, we have Rhode Island. Rhode Island is a small state. It has 2 casinos. One's a large casino, one's a small casino, not unlike North Carolina in that respect. Shannon, do you think the central server is an autopilot function or human watching and doing? Oh, it's far too much information for a human to watch. They put in guidelines. It's big data. I don't know if you're into artificial intelligence or neural networks. It's big data, and there's programs for all these things, but the programs are by humans, right? Even though artificial networks are sort of teaching themselves, but it's still somewhere in the background as a human. Just human being actively running it is not fast enough, and you can't, under most gaming regulations, have a human do that. A program written by a human passes, but just individuals and running it doesn't work. It can't. It's too much information. Even with the program. It might be 15 minutes after you sat down that the program even acknowledges, comes back around to understanding that you as an individual is connected to that game, and you're long gone by that point. So there's it's not real time, even with the computer. And if a person was doing it, it's just way too slow. And I have to say that a lot because we all worry about that sort of thing. Right. So 2 casinos in Rhode Island. I was having a conversation. This really goes back to your question about central server. Does Rhode Island have a central server? I puzzle over this stuff. Okay. They have a lottery system that is connected offsite to both casinos and their video slot machines, because it's connected to the state lottery, and who does what? There's another guy, netimegambling.com. NE is New England Time Gambling, all no spaces, no dashes, nothing like that, .com. Robin Aubin, and he's a great guy. I've met him, chatted with him. He doesn't have his own podcast, but he shows up on a lot of others, calls in and asks questions, good questions. And he's got a website and all that. Not entirely slots. He does a lot of the table games. But he's New England based. So he's keeping an eye on things out there, not just Rhode Island. And he was talking to me about, I was asking him, what do you think about these documents that are available from the Rhode Island lottery? What do they mean? When they talk about this, that, and the other thing, do the video lottery terminal machines at the casinos in Rhode Island, are they fully controlled by off-site? And I'm like, it's kind of between the lines. And he's like, well, I'd like them to actually say it. And I'm like, this is a document that's basically for lawyers. We're not lawyers. So it's, anyway, I'm giving this as an example of how difficult it can be sometimes to look at some of these laws and go, what does this mean? Because nobody's out there except me, right? And you as individuals, me as a business, looking at these laws and going, you know what that means? That means if you do this, then you do that. And that's real. And somebody should try that. I'm not in Oregon, but let me get on a plane. Maybe not right now. I'd like to encourage you to sign up to my Facebook groups, depending what state you're in. Join your local slots community on Facebook. It's a private Facebook group to get your latest on casino reopenings in your area. Share your casino trip reports and see what your local slots enthusiasts, your fellow slots enthusiasts are sharing. Every state has a private Facebook group, slots community. Find yours at professorslots.com/FB. That's where a list is. And you can also find my online resource, which is right there at the top of my professorslots.com page. And you can find every individual article, 56 of them, but there's also a 57th article, which is just sort of like a very brief summary for all 56 locations alphabetically. And you can flip through that. And I write a new one of those every time I go through the series. And in about 2 months, I'll be updating that. And basically, as each week is done, I put in a high-level summary for each of the states. And I hope everybody has a great day. We're coming up on 60 minutes. I think I've got aloha from Hawaii. Glad you could make it. I didn't do any math today for you, Naiko, just for you. Thank you, everybody, and watch more of my videos to improve your slots gambling performance. Have fun, be safe, make good choices. Bye. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. This is the second segment of the show on slot machine casino gambling. Here, I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district, emphasizing by far anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Up next is Puerto Rico slot machine casino gambling in 2020. Here goes. Puerto Rico slot machine casino gambling consists of 16 land-based casinos and on-board casinos of visiting cruise ships. Puerto Rico has set a minimum theoretical payout return for their slot machines. Return statistics are available online. The minimum legal gambling age in Puerto Rico does not depend upon the gambling activity. For land-based casinos, poker rooms, bingo, the lottery, and pari-mutuel wagering, it's 18. The maximum denomination for slot machine in Puerto Rico is $25. Next up is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. territory and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. In Puerto Rico, the legal status of owning a slot machine privately in this U.S. island territory is unknown. The gaming division of the Puerto Rico Tourism Company regulates gaming in Puerto Rico. In this section, I'll discuss Puerto Rico gambling establishments. There are 16 commercial casinos, including 8 casinos on San Juan, as well as visiting cruise ships to Puerto Rico. The largest casino in Puerto Rico is Cargas Real Hotel and Casino with 570 gaming machines. There are 16 casinos in Puerto Rico. Most connect to well-known hotel chains such as Embassy Suites, Hilton, Holiday Inn, Hyatt, Marriott, Radisson, Ritz-Carlton, Westin, and Wyndham. As usual, when there are too many casinos to mention here, a complete list is available on my webpage for this territory at professorslots.com/PR. Puerto Rico has no federally recognized American Indian tribes and therefore no tribal casinos. As an alternative to enjoying Puerto Rico slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in a nearby state or territory. Bordering Puerto Rico is, to the north, the Atlantic Ocean, to the northwest, Florida, to the east, the U.S. Virgin Islands, to the south, the Caribbean Sea, and to the west, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba. To visit any of my articles on these U.S. states or territories, simply visit ProfessorSlots.com followed by its 2-letter postal designation. For example, my Florida Slots article is available at ProfessorSlots.com/FL. Are you interested in sharing and learning with other slots enthusiasts in Puerto Rico? If so, join our Puerto Rico Slots community on Facebook at ProfessorSlots.com/FBPR. All you'll need is a Facebook profile to join this private Facebook group freely. There, you'll be able to privately share your slots experiences as well as chat with players about slots gambling on or near Puerto Rico. Again, use this convenient link I've created to go directly to our group on Facebook, ProfessorSlots.com/FBPR. Join us. The minimum theoretical payout for slot machines in Puerto Rico is 83%. The Puerto Rico Tourism Company has 2018 slots revenue reports at statistics under slot machines. In summary, Puerto Rico slot machine casino gambling consists of 16 hotels of well-known chains as well as onboard casinos on visiting international cruise ships. Puerto Rico has set an 83% minimum theoretical payout for their slot machines. Return percentages from 2018 are available online. Over the last year, there has been little change to the slots gaming industry in Puerto Rico. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is a live-streamed Q&A session on YouTube. Remember, my weekly Q&A session on YouTube is on Saturdays from noon until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bring whatever slots questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. An easy-to-remember link to my YouTube channel is ProfessorSlots.com/live. Feel free to stop by anytime during my hour-long Q&A. Part 2 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. state of Rhode Island. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes for this episode are on my website at ProfessorSlots.com/episode 100. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Bye.